Cocaine, heroin, LSD, and methamphetamine. What do all of these drugs have in common? Yes, they're hard drugs that are illegal in pretty much every corner of the globe. They've also been used as some form of medicine, some more recently than others. We can further add even more drugs to the list, such as cannabis, morphine, barbiturates, and opium. While these might not be entirely illegal or considered hard drugs, they do come with their own checkered pasts in terms of misuse and abuse. But before we look at how these hard drugs have been prescribed as medicine, let's quickly establish the human relationship between substances and intoxication. It's been going on for a long time. Pretty much every ancient civilization experimented with mind-altering and psychoactive substances. Whether it was to cure ailments or to simply check out into an intoxicated state, it seems to have always been a part of societies, no matter their spiritual or religious beliefs. From the indigenous cultures of Australia and South America to ancient Egypt and China, there is substantial evidence of people seeking out substances to satisfy a wide range of needs. Many of these substances were no doubt addictive, and yet many of them were also highly beneficial. There were records of poppy seeds, alcohol, coca leaves, tobacco, and cannabis all having been used by various societies throughout history. It wasn't until the last few hundred years that the addictive and potentially harmful effects of many of these drugs were put under the microscope and deemed illegal. So, which drugs were used for medicinal purposes and by whom? Although it's not regarded as a hard drug, cannabis has arguably the longest history as a form of medicine. This is mainly because it's currently approved by many countries around the world as a legal form of medicine, otherwise known as medicinal marijuana. There is evidence of cannabis being used by a wide number of cultures, dating as far back as 2800 BCE. It was used in China, India, the Islamic world, ancient Egypt, and Greece. The Chinese Emperor Shen Nung is regarded as the godfather of Chinese medicine. He attested to the benefits of cannabis in relieving pain, arthritis, lack of appetite, and even asthma. In the 19th century, European travelers discovered the use of medicinal cannabis when they visited India and China and introduced the concept to Western societies. After being tested on animals, cannabis was often prescribed to treat anything ranging from migraines and muscle pains to insomnia and eating dysfunctions. Cannabis continues to be used as a painkiller and treatment against cancer. 38 American states have legalized prescribed medical marijuana, as have a whole host of other countries. Harder drugs such as cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine have all served some medicinal purpose, but are now recognized as illegal and highly addictive substances. Many of us may be familiar with methamphetamine being dispensed to soldiers in World War II to help keep them awake in the most trying of times. Major countries such as Germany, Britain, Japan, and the US, and specifically Germany, Germany did a lot of stuff, they all provided their troops with some form of amphetamine. The ephedra shrub grows throughout the world, and it contains a chemical called ephedrine. In the late 19th century, chemists discovered ephedrine's stimulant properties. Not long after, other chemists were able to break ephedrine down into crystal form, creating the methamphetamine drug. In the early 20th century, it was sold over the counter under names such as Benzedrine and Pervitin. Amphetamines were initially used to help treat weight disorders and narcolepsy, and were then mass-produced to help soldiers during World War II. It's believed that the British military alone stocked 72 million tablets during the campaign. It also became especially popular amongst doctors in the 1920s when it was prescribed to treat low blood pressure and to stimulate the central nervous system. When the negative effects of amphetamine became more widely known, its use became severely restricted. Heart malfunctions, mood swings, high blood pressure, and addiction risks were all cited as reasons for making the drug illegal towards the mid-20th century. Amphetamine, however, has also been used with success in the treatment of ADHD amongst children. It's currently available in medicine forms under brand names such as Ritalin and Adderall, although the prescription is highly regulated and very much controlled. More recently, the pseudoephedrine component of many cold and flu tablets has also been exploited by criminal gangs looking to manufacture crystal meth. This led to strict rules regarding the availability of these medicines, and it often leads to them being banned. Another medicinal hard drug, cocaine, comes from the leaves of the coca plant, which grows primarily in the Andean countries of South America. Like amphetamines, cocaine is also considered to be a stimulant and highly addictive. Stimulant drugs speed up messages from the brain to the body. That enhances energy, it improves concentration, and it can bring on feelings of euphoria. In the late 19th century and the early 20th centuries, these properties prompted many doctors in Europe and the US to prescribe cocaine as an antidepressant and an energy booster. Its numbing qualities were also used as an anesthetic for surgical procedures by dentists and eye doctors. European settlers noticed South American natives chewing coca leaves, which acted as a mild stimulant, an energy booster, and a painkiller. In the early 19th century, European chemists tried extracting cocaine from coca leaves, reducing it to a pure, concentrated extract. This was regarded as up to 100 times more powerful than its original source. High-profile names in the medical community, such as Sigmund Freud, advocated cocaine for its mental and physical benefits. American pharmacist John Pemberton was also a massive believer in the drug. In 1866, after being injured in the Civil War, Pemberton concocted a coca drink that acted as a painkiller and an energy enhancer. It was carbonated and then sold to a manufacturer in Atlanta, where it eventually became, drumroll please, Coca-Cola. However, cocaine abuse brought many nasty side effects, such as heart failure, increased blood pressure, and psychological issues. It was made officially illegal in America, and European countries soon followed suit. Another category of these drugs, heroin and opium, are opiates, both coming from the seeds of the opium poppy plant. These plants can be grown in pretty much anywhere with a warm, dry climate. Heroin is classed as Schedule I or Class A drug in most countries, which is the category for the most dangerous and addictive drugs. Cocaine, MDMA, and methamphetamine are also commonly classed in this group. The use of opiates for medicinal purposes goes a long way back, as far as Homer to be precise. Homer's Odyssey refers to opium being used for medicinal purposes, while Helen of Troy is written to have used opium for its pain-relieving and relaxing effects. Ancient Sumerian, Egyptian, Indian, and Chinese societies all dabbled with opium. It was used as a relaxant, a painkiller, a way to induce sleep, and as an anesthetic. As with many practices and ideas, opium was gradually introduced to Europe from the Far East and the Middle East. At the beginning of the 19th century, doctors were prescribing opium for a variety of reasons, ranging from painkillers to mood enhancers and cough suppression. However, there was a concern for the drug's addictive qualities, and milder forms were sought. In 1803, a young German pharmacist experimented with opium, and he refined it to create morphine. Morphine was an instant hit in the medical world, as it offered significant benefits in pain relief. It also readily was recommended by pharmacists around the world, and it was freely available. Unfortunately, a lot of soldiers in particular developed extreme addictions to morphine, resulting in overdoses and death. In the late 19th century, heroin was created by boiling and synthesizing morphine. The number of morphine users was rapidly increasing, as were the associated negative effects. Heroin was believed to be less addictive than morphine and began to be used as a medicine. The German pharmaceutical giant Bayer began packaging and selling bottles of heroin to be used as cough suppressant and pain reliever. It was heavily marketed and also prescribed for tuberculosis and bronchitis. Despite so many people believing heroin to be less addictive than morphine, the number of recreational heroin users skyrocketed in America and Europe. There were an estimated 200,000 people addicted to heroin in New York City alone. By 1914, the U.S. government had seen enough and decided to clamp down on the use of harmful drugs. The Harrison Narcotics Act was passed, resulting in it being illegal to use narcotics like heroin, morphine, or cocaine. Only doctors were permitted to supply these substances, which were also heavily taxed. And so began the world's never-ending battle to control and limit the supply of what were once widely available medicinal drugs. Although the acceptance of medicinal marijuana has seen it become legalized in many societies, it's never been classed in the highly addictive category with the likes of heroin and cocaine. Developments in medicine have meant that people now have access to safer, less addictive alternatives to what are perceived as hard drugs. Of course, though, any medicine or drug that can alter or transform someone's physical or mental state must always be carefully monitored. The dangers are that once a drug enters the black market, demand rises and criminal networks take over. Medicine continues to be improved and refined to lessen the cravings and the side effects. One thing that never really seems to change, though, it seems to be an intrinsically human trait to crave or seek psychoactive outlets, whether we're sick or not.